And real quick guys, before we get this video started, as always this video is sponsored by Talaria Studios. A lot of you guys are probably already familiar with them as the guys that own and operate Sur-ron shop. When I found out that the guys that work at Sur-ron shop are also going to be making parts for the Talaria, well, that was ultimate justification for me pulling the trigger on the bike. And they're very good at thinking outside of the box when it comes to parts and upgrades for these bikes. So be sure to check them out guys, link will be down in the description, and let's get back to the video. So guys, in today's video, I'm finally doing a review of the Talaria Sting electric dirt bike. I'm sorry this took so long. I really wanted to get some time on the bike before I gave you guys my opinion on it. I don't really like the idea of unboxing, a dirt bike like this and riding it around for 5 minutes and then giving you guys a review, because you can't know anything about the bike. So I decided to wait until I got some hours and some time on the bike. So at this point in time, I have about 200 miles on the bike. I've taken it to motocross tracks, and the video that you're watching is actually of a almost 2 hour long hair scramble that we did last week. But now I feel really confident telling you about its pros and cons and how it really feels to ride it. So without further ado, let's get into this video. So getting into the bike, the pros definitely outweigh the cons on this bike, but I don't want to talk about the pros quite yet. I want to talk about the things that I don't like about the bike. The first thing that I found out after I took it out of the box is it has the same array of sensors that came on the Sur-ron X. It has brake sensors, and it has a kickstand sensor, and it has a spillover switch. The spillover switch I still have plugged in on my bike. I actually don't mind that one. As far as the kickstand sensor goes, I unplugged that right away, and I also unplugged the brake sensors right away. Those kind of sensors, in my opinion, prevent you from riding the bike the way it's meant to be ridden. I understand that it's a safety measure, but people that are so new to riding dirt bikes that they require those kind of features, they're not going to be the same people that drop $5,000 on a bike like this. So those features kind of seem worthless, and pretty much everyone unplugs them anyways. And Talaria also could have saved the buyer a little bit of time so they don't have to unplug them, and they could have saved themselves a little bit of cost. The second thing that I don't like about this bike is that it comes with a cheap bash plate, just like the Sur-ron did, and still does. They definitely could have opted out for something a little more heavy duty. I feel like if I hit one log with this thing, it's going to dent in and wreck the motor. So I'm going to be looking for an upgrade for that as soon as anyone makes it. The third item on the list that I don't like about this bike, I actually found out after we did a range test. So for example, when you're riding a Sur-ron and you get down to 3%, or it's 3 or 4%, your bike will then go into what it's called a limp mode, where it'll only let you use about 25% of the power or 30% of the power. That way you have longer range and you can get back to wherever you need to go without killing the battery. The Talaria goes into this limp mode at 10%. I do not like this at all. I feel like it'd be a lot better idea if they had that limp mode engage at like 5% and under, like the Sur-rons. Maybe they'll change that in the future. They did change the phase amps on these bikes after the first couple batches shipped out because people were complaining that it was too torquey, but we'll see if they do anything about this. It's definitely something that I would say to change about the bike. The last thing I'm going to complain about with this bike is really minor. I found that when I was riding this bike, it was really easy to hit the arrows on the dashboard, which adjust your regen level just while you were riding. Often like start with level 4 regen, and then it would go from like 4 to 2 to 3, and then when I'd stop I'd be at 2 or 1. It's not really that big of a deal. It was more annoying than anything. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I have to say really negative about this bike. We can get into the pros now, which there are a lot of them. I really do love this bike. So the first thing I want to talk about this bike that I really like is the power to weight ratio. I really love. Talaria did a great job with the design of this bike. Now the Talaria is a stronger bike than a Sur-ron. Sur-ron only does 5,000 watts out of the box, and the Talaria does 6. But the Talaria is about 25 pounds heavier, so when you're riding it, you're doing about the same speed as the Sur-ron does. A lot of people don't like this. They don't like that the bike weighs heavier because you can't go as fast. I absolutely love the fact that the bike weighs more, because when you're riding on trails like this, your ride is going to be smoother. You're not going to bounce off of everything like you do on the Sur-ron. I found that I was riding a lot better and a lot faster than I do on a Sur-ron because it was smoother, and I wasn't trying to battle everything, and I wasn't bouncing off of roots because my bike was so light. Some of you down in the comments are going to disagree with me on this, but it's true that if you have a little bit more weight behind you while you're riding, you're going to ride smoother, and smooth is fast. The second thing that I really like about this bike is the customization on the dashboard and the gearbox. So on the dashboard, you can set up your wheel size and your gear ratio, which optimizes the performance of the bike, which I found to be incredibly useful. You can also, like I said, adjust the regen level at will, which I like and I dislike because I accidentally bump it all the time, but I like the regen level a lot. Most of the time during this race, I had it on level 4 regen, which is so strong I hardly had to even use my brakes. When you have it on that 4th regen level, which is higher than the Sur-rons can do, it feels like you're riding with your brakes on. It's absolutely incredible. The gearbox I absolutely love too. It's really smooth, it's really quiet. You do have to change the oil in it every now and then, which I have a video on if you guys need to change your oil. So I really enjoy the electronics and the gearbox on this bike. I think it's a really good design, and Talaria did a really good job of it. As far as range goes on the Talaria, I was pretty impressed with it. It comes with a 60 volt, 38 amp hour battery, which I had to use 2 of them to complete this race. I could do 4 laps on 1 battery, which is the same what I had to do with the Sur-ron, but I found that I got a little bit better range on the Talaria. When I raced on this track on the Sur-ron, I used almost exactly 100% doing 4 laps on this battery. I'd roll back into the pits at 1 or 2% for the Sur-ron. On the Talaria, on the first 4 laps, I had 8% left, and then I swapped my battery, and then after the race, after I did 4 more, I had 16%. So I was riding a lot faster, and I was getting better range on the Talaria. I don't know if this is because of the weight, and the regen level was helping me out quite a bit, but it had really good range. I was impressed. So the next thing that I want to talk about that I really love, that I know a lot of people hate and complain about, is the start button on the Talaria. When you turn on your Talaria, you have to turn the key and then reach over by your thumb, by your throttle hand, and click start. A lot of people don't like this. They say it's an extra step, it's a big waste of time. Which doesn't make any sense to me, because by the time you reach your hand over to the throttle, your thumb can hit the start button and you can go. It's no extra time. So people that complain about this are just straight up lazy. The reason that I think this is a really good idea is when you have an electric dirt bike, it's really easy to forget that the bike is on, especially if you don't have a headlight, which has happened to me a couple times. I had little Patrick climb up on my bike. We're going to go for a ride. I forgot the bike was on, and he reached up and grabbed the throttle, and I wheelied into the side of my truck. And I've had stuff like that happen more than once. So I like the start button just as a precautionary measure. Next thing I want to talk about that I really love on the Talaria is the seat design. It's a lot longer than the Sur-ron's was. It goes further in the front and further in the back. And it's one of the first things that I noticed riding the bike, that you could shift your weight almost entirely over the middle of the bike, which changes your center of gravity, makes it a lot easier to go on turns, and it makes the world of difference. You can also scoot farther back than you can on the Sur-ron, which makes it easier to do wheelies. So I absolutely love the design of the seat. It's one of my favorite parts about the bike. So to sum up, if I was going to compare the Talaria Sting to the Sur-ron X, I know I've been calling the Talaria like an optimized version of the Sur-ron, but I don't think that's actually the case anymore. I feel like the Talaria and the Sur-ron are almost the exact same bike, but they're designed slightly different for different styles of riding. The Sur-ron is going to have 5,000 watts, so it's a little less strong, but it's a lot lighter and a lot skinnier, which is a lot better for riding on the roads. And the Talaria is going to be a little bit more heavy. It's a little bit stronger. You can get a bigger tire in the back, and it has a gearbox in it, which is great for trail riding. And I think this is important if you're thinking about getting one of these bikes. Consider what you're going to be using and riding it on. If you're going to be riding in the trails, I would 100% recommend the Talaria. If you're going to be riding on the road, I would recommend the Sur-ron over the Talaria. So that's my official review comparison for these two bikes. I know everyone is up in arms about which bike is better. I don't think that's a fair question. They're really similar, but it's clear that they're designed for different styles of riding. Alright guys, well that is my review of the Talaria Sting electric dirt bike. All the things I dislike and like about it. Overall, I really love the bike. It's a really smooth ride. There's great power, great range, and it's just really a blast to ride. Anyway guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Be sure to comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one.